What's up, everybody, and welcome to the House of Business podcast. I'm your host, Matt.
And I'm Hope. Matt, how's it going? I got 2 hot takes for you today.
Well, it's going well, thank you. And what are your 2 hot takes?
Number 1, I decided this week, actually I've known this for a while, I absolutely love going to the dentist. I love the dentist.
What are you, a serial killer? I don't understand.
I love the way that they clean your teeth in ways that you can't. I like it. I like the way my teeth feel after the fact for a couple of days.
Okay, that's fair.
I know that's a hot take because I think most people hate the dentist.
I think it depends on if you go to a good dentist or not.
Well, I used to think, I just liked getting my teeth cleaned from this one girl, and then it switched up and now it's a different person.
Yeah.
And I still like it.
That's fair.
I think the guy that I did it with this week was I think there's 2 other people that have ever said that to me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. I think.
Do you like going to the dentist, Matt?
I had some dental work done that wasn't fun.
That's different. Dental work is you're sitting there for hours.
Cleaning, when you're consistent and you leave there and it's just in and out. Yeah, I agree. That could be.
I have a cleaning 3 or 4 times a year. I almost said a month.
I gotta go every week.
3 or 4 times a year. And I have no problem scheduling it, and I love it so much. And honestly, I feel like if you keep up with it, it's not a big deal. Yeah.
Consistency.
Yeah.
What's your other hot take?
Okay, my second hot take, and this is more of a question for you, so I'm going to let you incriminate yourself. Yay or nay to kids' birthday parties?
Nay.
Invites?
Nay.
Thoughts, or no, you just want to end it there?
Well, I've never known. You know what? You really do a great job at setting me up to just get me.
I will expose my feelings too.
Okay. I've never known of a kid's birthday party to be at a convenient time for an adult. And I think the easy response is, well, it's not about you. It's about the kids. And
it's not about your kid, though. It's about your kid, the other person's kid.
Yeah. So I've never actually, I don't think we've gone, this actually says a lot about my kids. Maybe they have no friends, but we've never really gone to, maybe they're not old enough yet.
You've definitely been invited.
Well, then my wife is heaven on earth because she's never let me know. Char's never told me about it.
Yeah.
And her and I must be aligned.
That's okay. 2 reasons. Number 1, usually they're pretty far away. It's the inconvenience, and it's only one of the kids out of your family. So you're going to, do all that stuff. And when they're little, it's they don't even realize that they're missing it. Now, the question will be once they start realizing everybody in my class, which I feel like it happens more in 4th and 5th grade.
But I think as the adult, it's well, do you drop them off or do you have to stay there? And if you're, it's 40 minutes away.
There was a mom
conversation with, the other dads or
that
not.
Don't want to be there either.
Yeah. Yeah. Or you're sitting in a parking lot for 3 hours or driving. It's just not convenient.
And in our defense, we don't really throw big parties like that and invite a bunch of kids either. Anyways,
we have enough kids.
Yeah, we have plenty of kids. Internally. But there was actually a woman that got blasted for either doing this or wanting to drop her kid off at the birthday party and leave. And it became news. I don't know where. But the controversy, and it basically it had this element of this controversy of is that allowed? Is that not? Should people be able to drop their kids off with you if you're throwing a party, or do the parents have to stay? And lots of people had lots of opinions about it. And the woman got blasted for it.
I'll set the bar.
He was why should I stay there? You invited my son.
I think maybe my opinion is, this is my hot take, is if you're going to make the decision to host a birthday party with kids, you should wait for your kid to be at an age to where they can operate and function to some capacity without parents having to be there. So 4-year-olds and everything, it's a whole thing. But if it's my 12-year-olds, they're wild, but they understand the difference between right and wrong. Yeah. And you can smack them when nobody's looking. I'm kidding.
Okay.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I'm very much kidding. Yeah. Everybody, I'm kidding. Or am I?
So, as of now, I feel until the boys all start asking to go, or if they're feeling left out, that would change things. But also, a lot of our kids are in the same grades, so they would maybe go together. But
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about who we got to interview today.
I know, and it's today's been a struggle because it was Padrino, it's the Padrino family. So
Laudy and Mario Padrino is who we got to interview.
And I haven't eaten lunch today, so we
interviewed
them. We've done other stuff, and am starving.
Yeah.
So to talk about food was a struggle, but they're amazing. So,
and their food is amazing.
Yeah.
I can think and smell it as I'm talking about it.
Yeah. So I'll give you a quick background here on Padrino's. As you said, we interviewed Mario and Laudy. So Padrino's restaurant is a third-generation family-owned collection of Cuban restaurant. Each generation has added their own touch to create the ultimate Cuban culinary experience, from their grandmother's recipes to their father's dedication to service, and now their handcrafted cocktails, all served in a contemporary warm ambiance. So they talk about those pillars throughout the interview, and it's really cool to kind of see how each generation has added their fingerprint to the company as it's evolved.
I love that. I also love that they kind of pulled back the curtain on the business side of being a restaurant owner. I thought that was really interesting, and a little bit their dynamic with so now the third generation, it's Mario Laudy, but also their brother Eddie, and how they work together, and how ironically their skill sets just happen to mesh really well. But yet they're all very different. So that was super interesting. Mario really got into the details of the business and the numbers and things like that. So I thought that was really interesting.
And it was cool for like one big family to interview with another big family, or representatives of the two families, and we've known each other for a while. So they were a great interview. Yeah,
they were super fun. And I'll have to go to dinner at Padrino's. We love that type of food, but also that restaurant, and supporting them is really great for us to do. So I can't wait to check it out.
Enjoy. And it was a great. Thanks, guys, for doing it. Bye.
So many moons ago, this family came here from Cuba. So my grandparents, when they got down here, my dad came down to Miami. He had worked before in grocery stores, but when he got to Miami, it was
my dad.
Yeah, you mean grandfather?
Grandfather.
But he was close enough.
Grandfather came down with my dad.
Also, isn't it up because isn't Cuba below us?
Sorry, actually, because they went to. Okay,
can you start over?
This is what it's like with two crazy families.
Wait. Honestly, this feels like our family.
No, you know what? You know the thing is, because I was like trying to skip New Jersey part, but you're gonna have to go ahead.
What happened in New Jersey?
They went to New Jersey first.
Okay.
And then they came down to Miami.
Okay.
So that's why it was down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And by trying to skip it, I just
geographically
sounded crazy. Yeah. So came down here, saturated grocery store market, which that's what he knew, because that's what he had done before. And so he's like, let's pivot and try the restaurant game. And so he did that, had some success, and then he would just sell and then do it again. Sell and do it again.
Sell the restaurant.
Sell the restaurant. And then just buy another one and do it again. And then that was up until, I guess, my dad was around and involved. And instead of having that model, he said, let's grow it instead of sell it. And so that was the Hallandale location that he was given over. Then he started Plantation, which that's when we were kind of alive and around to remember.
Okay.
And then he grew it. There was the Boca location, multiple other locations after that.
Your dad grew it.
My dad, yeah. Grandparents were, at that point, they had truly handed it over to him.
Yeah, so our grandfather, when he came over from Cuba, he was in the 60s. So he started it in the 60s. My grandmother was always sick. She had diabetes and a bunch of just health complications. So when they gave it to my father, he was 21. So he was young. He did this he's been doing it for a long time, right? He was doing it prior to being the official owner, but then because, again, my grandfather's age, my grandmother's health, they officially signed it over to him when he was 21. And then
in the 70s, but in his 60s. So it was in our grandfather's 60s, is that what you meant? You said
What did
in
I
the
say?
You
in
said
the
he
60s,
was 60.
He was 60 or
he
in the
was-
60s?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He was 60 in the 60s.
No, it was actually in
No,
the
he was
70s.
60 years old.
He was
We said
literally
this story
60.
before.
Yeah.
Definitely better.
Better.
than how we're saying it right
I
now.
think it's because I could hear myself that I don't enjoy.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy the.
Okay,
You'll get
well, I'm
used to it.
tracking. No, I heard 60. I heard he was in his 60s.
Okay, perfect. And then because he was older and she was like sick, handed over to my dad. And then he's the one that thought more in terms of growth as opposed to flip.
Yeah, so he took on like, hey, let's ultimately, rather than do these one and dones,
Right.
churn and burns, let's create a business model
Yep.
and ultimately scale to multiple locations, which is what you guys have today, right? And through that, so it started, the first one was, you said was Hallandale?
Hallandale was the one that my grandparents were very much a part of. And then my dad.
Okay, and then your dad was 21, and then, so was he ultimately part of the process of picking the next locations and vetting out kind of what would be beneficial and where to
The
go?
process, yeah, because he was having just thoughts of, do I really want to do this? And there was actually like a leasing agent person. Remember the realtor that?
Right. But if we go further, the first one was in Hialeah, not in Hallandale.
Yes, I guess I started it when we were in Hallandale is when he took over.
Yeah, right.
Do the whole
hilarious.
thing.
I can't. What are staff meetings like? That's what I want to know.
No,
The family
much
went
better
from
than
Jersey
Yeah.
to Hialeah.
Yes.
Bought the
Hialeah.
first restaurant
Yeah.
in Hialeah, took over a spot.
Well, she did say that there was other restaurants that he would buy and sell. So
Right.
that's what
And
you're
then
saying.
And then we went to Hallandale because
But the first
somebody...
Padrino's restaurant was in
Boom.
Hallandale.
Well said.
I'm
like
tracking
detective-
with
There
you,
we go.
Lottie.
Yeah, well
We
said.
get
well
it.
said.
Because we have the crazy family too, so like
Not
it's-
actually crazy. Usually
can-
we are way more normal.
maybe we're just rubbing
we
off
can
on you
connect
guys.
tell the
the
origin
dots.
story
Usually we can tell,
better
and
than this.
I had it all in like 3 sentences. Somehow I just, again, I'm blaming it on the playback. But yeah, so then then Plantation.
Then Plantation.
He says something came alive in him when he came into that shopping center, and it was like a new development, and he saw what it could be and what he wanted to turn the business into. That's how he speaks of it.
Right, because prior to that, it was just a family business. So we had my grandmother, I think like 3 or 4 of her sisters.
She
So
had a
imagine
mess of
he has him
sisters.
with his mom and his aunts, cousins working there, sisters working there. It was a family
was a
restaurant. So
I
then-
mean, guys, I still feel like it's like that for you guys.
No, people swear that we have a million cousins and things like that working in the restaurant.
Well,
family wise, it's literally just us.
I guess I think like, yeah, you were saying, they're obviously serving and cooking. I don't picture you guys doing that. But the fact that you guys run operations together to me is still family business.
So
it is. But like, no, we don't walk in and it's just like, if
yeah,
they
cookies making the, drinks.
Like, so like all the aunts, if they were to not be there, there would not be a restaurant. So that, imagine that mentality of like if it's not my family, like this place is going down. It was what it could be in like, not like a real business, but basically not just like family or bust. And that they were there all the time, like just exhausted.
Yeah, the restaurant space is great.
Yeah.
The hours, I mean, you guys. So I always have a lot of respect for industries that are essentially making money when other people aren't working.
Yeah.
Right. So like holidays, all those times. I had a very short career in like the fitness space, and it was the same thing. I mean, where you guys probably are the most profitable is during those seasons where people are taking time to rest.
Yeah.
Funny enough,
go for it.
Funny enough, we are not because.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Okay.
No. Yes, the industry, yes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things that we do try to pride ourselves on being like the anti-industry, because hospitality, specifically restaurants, they do get a bad rep because of the hours that they keep. So we actually close a bit earlier than most.
Oh, wow.
We also are closed on all major holidays. So Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas.
That's very
okay. Christmas
that's
Day,
great.
New Year's Eve, New Year's Day.
Your staff probably loves that.
That's a major selling factor because in the other industries, like you said, not only do you work, you're like required to work, and it's going to be a busier day that you're dreading, and usually the crowds are rougher and all that kind of stuff.
Okay, so grandparents, dad, mom, got all that. Now, kids, 3rd generation comes along. You guys, your brother.
When does that happen?
When does that happen? And like, are you all going into college thinking we're going into the family business or all together? The fact that not one of you was like, I'm out, I'm going to go be an accountant.
Right.
or whatever. Yeah. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. We all have our different comeback stories, and we call it coming back because it was kind of like, it is funny because we always refer to it like coming back to the restaurant.
Yeah. You're like the prodigal children.
No, not even.
Right?
No, because
was there pressure? Were your parents like,
zero,
really?
Zero. Actually, my dad always, like, of course, it would be his dream, his goal was for us to work in the business, but never with any kind of pressure. And the idea is, if we did want to come back, that's what we call it, that for us to get outside experience, to bring that in. Okay. Because what good are we if we don't know anything else? So that's kind of how it happened. So you can speak to yours, because the way that it happened just chronologically was he came back, then me.
Mario first.
Right. Okay. So I went to school originally trying to get an accounting degree because
funny, I didn't mean to do that.
You did a research.
I didn't know.
And my Edward too.
Yeah. So the idea of the accounting degree is you get a degree that you can get a job in business. And I figured I can get into any business, and I won't stay at whatever position. I'll grow and see something. And maybe like 2 weeks into it, I was like, no, I'm not doing this. I was at just doing some course in accounting, and I get good grades. I'm sharp. And I was like, no, this sucks. I'm not doing this.
Yeah.
So I quickly changed, and I just went to school for the restaurant. And it wasn't a backup. It was just kind of like, well, if that's the ultimate goal, right? If what I was going to do is gain some knowledge to add value to the restaurant, I thought, let me just go to school for the restaurant. Let me figure it out.
What's that degree? A hospitality?
Yeah, good question. Yeah. So, no, I went business, and then it was in Miami. I just started an entrepreneurship program, and the whole idea is, start a business, grow a business. So I figured we haven't, how do we actually scale, grow to some scale? And that's what that program was specifically about. So I kind of thought, the entrepreneurship was interesting because it's not like a degree in accounting where you get a specific job, you're learning that skill. This was more how to grow a smaller.
And you got to kind of think about your business model for a literal business that you had.
Yeah, exactly.
Home.
Well, and entrepreneurs wear a lot of hats, so that was probably a really mixed.
Right. So then,
degree.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, I got all of the, I got the business degree, and then actually after working with the restaurants for maybe like a year and a half, it was a friend said, or Kyle Zito, he said he was going to go get an MBA, and I figured, I've got time. I'm single.
You're like, I'll go with you.
So it was night. It was like you could do it at night, or you could do it on, like a Friday night, Saturday morning. And so I thought, all right, let me see what it's like, or not see what it's like. I was like, let me do it. So I got the MBA, and I ended up meeting Nicole. So it was
destiny.
But did you go to your dad and you were like, hey, Dad, I'm going to college for the business. I'm coming back. I'm going to join the business. Was that a conversation? Or are you like, maybe I'll start my own business or my own restaurant?
Yeah. Once the idea of the accounting wasn't happening, then the conversation with him was, hey, I'm going to school, and then I'm going to go.
So you were at school for 2 weeks. You're like, okay, Dad, this is it. I'm coming back.
He's probably the one that convinced you to go check out the accounting degree.
Yeah, well, it sounds good, son. Go try it out.
Yeah, his thing is definitely get a degree that you get a job in. Don't just learn something just for fun. Get something you get a job.
It costs money too to get a degree.
A lot of money. So he was. We had the conversation. So yeah, of course he was happy that I did want to come back, and that I was learning for the restaurant.
Your dad and mom must have made it a fun experience for you guys to have all come back.
I mean, the idea.
You're like,
there's a big sigh there.
We both said no.
Like we both launching into it. The idea of fun. It wasn't fun or not fun. It was just like life. I mean, we worked in it. I remember being like pretty young, being like a hostess and like being there after school. I mean, the idea of it being fun, honestly, it was like you don't know anything else because we would just hang out there.
It was like ingrained in your life.
Yeah, and when people poo-poo the industry, it's kind of like, again, if it's what you know, it's what you know.
Right.
And again, and they've made it a good point to my parents and to some of the stuff that is more of the negative side of it. We've seen how to alleviate that pain because, again, like this is a lot of people that get into the industry. Imagine our family did it because it's immigrants. A lot of our people are, first generation immigrants. So you don't necessarily, I don't know how many people say, all right, I want to get into this industry. There are plenty, but what we did, to Lottie's point, it wasn't a fun or not fun. It was just, it was work. And then it was because it was ours. It's funny how it's not like when you had to just drop stuff, all right, for the restaurant, it wasn't a weird thing. It's not like, work. It's like, this is what's paying the bills. You gotta, you gotta do it. So they did a good job in teaching us that it was like, you got to be responsible.
And instilled in us, to what you're saying about like, it's not work. It was like this ownership mentality that we can speak about forever, ownership versus employee mentality. You're not doing it for anybody but yourself. Like this, you might be grinding your gears or not, but it all comes back to you. That's why when people look at me and they're like, "Oh, you're off today," I'm like, "I'm never off." Like you don't really, you're not, you're never really working or not working. It's just, it's truly just part of your life. That doesn't mean it's all consuming either, because obviously there's got to be balance. But
you're not working like a 9 to 5 shift, right? So I think that's the difference. Where if
like
you're waiting tables for a shift, like you can plug in and plug out,
but sometimes
you can't.
But we have and we can and we do and we.
Wait, sometimes you'll literally like, okay, I'm starting today.
Yeah, I had a great story about this.
Like this week?
I legit not this week. Oh. But yeah, a couple of years ago in 21, whatever they want to call it after COVID, after the labor drop when nobody wanted to work.
Oh no!
I was a server for months. Yeah.
So I got some insider information from your brother about this.
Yeah.
And so he brought that up where I asked, like, what's norm for you guys?
Right.
And he just kind of said, well, I mean, define norm. We've never really experienced that. And he brought up kind of the COVID scenario. And there was a moment where maybe it was a Fort Lauderdale location and we could have walked in and your whole family was.
Yeah, he was like, Mario's making drinks.
Which I would have loved to see that.
Yeah. No, it was, I have pictures of it. Well, everybody except for my dad. But yeah, there's multiple pictures of the four of us there, as in my mom too. Mom I would call her my gopher because she wasn't a server, but she would just like run stuff for me. Like, just grab me more drinks, give me bread.
Yeah.
I was serving Maitos at the bar and Edward was on Eduardo. He was on the line. And even my mom sometimes, like there's pictures of them like that. Like my mom with
hilarious.
a hairnet. And, but the thing, it wasn't like a thing where we're like, we have to do this right now. You just step up because you have to. And nobody's like, why do I mean, you can be like that. Yeah.
Right. You could.
Moan, but for what good? Yeah.
So that attitude has been instilled from your grandparents to your dad to you guys.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, so attitude and mindset, like again, just ownership. It's not I'm working for whatever.
No.
Which also makes a healthy relationship when it comes to like
your
money and with money, right? So I'm not doing this for work. I'm doing this it's like everything is just so much bigger picture than it is just whatever a task, I'm doing right here. Totally. Everything is just so future thinking and not being short-sighted.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a cool dynamic. And the other thing I want to ask you guys, so it goes from your grandfather, he switches over and then your father takes it over at a young age. Now the family is still a family business. And I think there's kind of like legacy plays. So your grandfather goes from grocery stores to the restaurant space. Your dad helps scale it out to multiple locations for your era and kind of your siblings. Do you guys have a vision to kind of where you want to take Padrino's? Is it just scaling to more locations? Is it infusing some type of other style of restaurant, or are you guys just like, listen, we just got the throne a little bit here, so stop asking me difficult questions?
No, and it's not just, again, right, it's your whole life. It's like, it doesn't feel like, oh, we just adopted this yesterday.
No, I mean, we've been doing it.
We have been doing it. Well, and all of us, you've been on I'm in my 11th year, and you're like a little bit more than that. Yeah. And then Ed, we're a little bit less than that. That's how it came on. And we can circle.
I actually am very excited to hear this answer because I love your restaurant.
To growth, you mean?
Yeah, or just like what do you, because this is third generation, like your dad definitely morphed it.
Right.
What are you guys going to do?
Right. So, I mean, you haven't been to the new one in Plantation?
Not yet. It just opened.
It did.
I've heard it's awesome though.
It is. So that's what we like to say, and we talk a lot about Gen 3, that's us, third generation, how we have put our spin on it and each generation's different contribution. Ours is elevating the experience. I think it's refining the experience. It's making it actually an experience where the ambiance is part of it. So we talked about what I say in my little snippet when we talk about the restaurant is my grandparents, my grandmother was like the recipes and the food and this just focus on excellence, that my dad was the service aspect of it and the culture and really developed that, where we established like those days off and that, again, that anti-industry culture. And then what we've done is elevated it with adding the addition of the full bar. where I'm designing the interiors, which that's what you do too, right?
Yeah.
I would do interior design,
Yeah.
designing the interior to give like that part of the experience is the ambiance. So there's definitely 3 parts
Like
of a
more
restaurant.
trendy, would you say?
It's
Or
just more
just up
now.
to
It's just
speed?
it matters. It's
Yeah.
part of the equation where it's
Yeah, it is. It
food,
is.
service, ambiance.
No joke. We decide where we're going, especially for like celebrations and stuff. Depending.
Interior photos more than
It's-
the food.
It's not more than, but it's very important.
It is
You
very.
can't see a hand raised in the podcast.
Oh,
Yeah, you
no,
can.
there's
We
a
record
camera right
it.
there.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I do.
Yeah.
run the
But you know what I mean?
interior photos.
Also,
True.
yeah, no, those things. I
Tell
guess
me
it's
no.
equal parts.
But
It's equal. It's
I've
food. It's ambiance. It's
said
vibe.
this, like those 3 things are really important. I really feel now
Drinks.
people care. Yeah, but that would go under that could go under food or even ambiance because it's
a social
It's not just
thing.
like the quality of the drink, right? It's how do they garnish it, what glass is it in, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So those things are major components, and now I think the ones that are thriving, you have to have ambiance. Service has got to be there, but even service has been like post COVID. Everybody says like the service everywhere sucks. So if you're focusing on the things that other people aren't, but food is just like one component.
Yeah.
It could have lasted for my grandmother.
Yeah.
Like that was a time that we had lines out the door because the food was so good. I mean,
Right.
it's still her recipes. Every time somebody says you change the chef, there's no chef. It's my grandmother's recipes. Anybody can follow them. They're time tested. Stick to those, and we're good. Haven't modified the menu. And
That's
you're talking
This is
about
making me very hungry.
Yeah, I know. What about you, Mario? What do you think?
Yeah, well, to the point of what you're saying about it's not just food. What's recently changed in the last 5 or more years is Uber Eats, right? So if it's just about food, you sit on your couch in your pajamas and you Uber Eat
Sure.
it, right? So you have to have that other element because if you're just trying to live off of Uber Eats, it doesn't make sense in our space. We have a full sit down,
Right.
you know, it's
you're not going to pay rent. For that, those people do ghost kitchens and stuff like
And
that.
it helps with reoccurring people. You're like, oh, let's go back there.
Yeah, no. So that's why it had to be the experience. And just to kind of give you some insight, we've got the newer restaurants, which would have been Fort Lauderdale, Dania, and Boca. They were
Which Boca is not necessarily new. Boca is very old. We remodeled it to
Right.
be new.
And
The same thing
Plantation.
and Plantation is same
well.
thing. But
So the newer ones after COVID rebounded much better and got better sales after COVID. Plantation, which hadn't been remodeled in Hallandale, really got hurt by COVID and didn't rebound to what they were prior to. So the point,
meaning like
Yeah.
ambiance took more importance post COVID.
right?
Yeah, you had to have a better reason to come out, right?
Yeah, there's the foundation with Padrino's that we don't take for granted that the product, the food, if we're talking about the food being the product,
100%.
it's awesome, right?
It's
The
always a
recipes,
baseline.
Yeah, it's quality. What our grandmother's recipes are there, like Laura said, it's time tested. They work. Now, it's not just the product. Food's not just the product. It is like what you're saying. It's the experience, and so the experience,
Which is the food, right? Because also the other aspect too that we've elevated in terms of experience, the food, I haven't changed it at all. But I did change the plating, the presentation.
Yeah.
So the actual plates, the way they fit on the plate, and I wouldn't say we get a lot of grief, but this idea of these small portions, the portions are good. They just fit on the plate.
Yeah.
The food
Oh, your
is not
portions are fine. I've went recently.
I just think that a restaurant is like such a sensory experience, right?
Yeah.
So obviously taste, but your visual, your smell,
Right.
sounds. If the music's too loud, like I mean, our family gets annoyed by something like that.
Yeah.
So if you guys have passed all those tests with flying colors,
Yeah.
but the other thing I was thinking about for you guys too is in what I find so fascinating about the restaurant space is the quality of product is so important, and that's one side of it that you guys have learned along the way, just what ingredients, your grandmother's recipes, but the business side of it is so fascinating to me too.
Yeah.
And I just know, and you're probably like, that's from 1964, but is it still looked at in the sense of the amount of tables you're turning every day, which equates to your profitability, or is there a more sophisticated way in which you're now looking at it to know whether or not your restaurant's doing well?
Well, that would definitely be one factor.
And your margins on your food and everything.
Sure,
like that.
but imagine if you are trying to sell food and tables are how you're selling it. That's
Correct.
one way. But again, COVID changed a lot in that takeout is such a big deal now. So what's one element? But there's the whole thing about takeout has just exploded recently. But just to kind of give you just some numbers, because if we're talking about the business side of it, a typical restaurant makes anywhere from 4 to 6. This is an independent.
Yeah.
4 to 6% profits. 4 to 6%. It's not
Like annual? Like, what is that?
So yeah, out of every dollar, you're taking home 4 to 6 cents.
Okay.
Out of every dollar. That's the typical, right? Then you have some of the chains are going to be doing 15 plus. So this isn't like the most, when you talk about high margins, that's not the restaurant world. The restaurant world I hate to say it's a penny game, but you have to be very conscientious about all the costs because again, and it's specifically our world, Cuban food has not gotten to the level of some other cuisines where
even Mexican, like you can charge whatever for Italian. Obviously, you just put it in a giant cheese bowl, and it's like that's Italian.
Not poo Italian because
zero. I love it.
But Japanese cuisine has gotten
you can charge
higher.
But literally,
even Mexican food. Sure.
Wait. I'm sorry. Back up. You're saying you can't raise the prices on your food?
There's still absolutely a perception about Cuban food. I mean, again,
it's still
I'm
niche.
Still hearing
it's still niche that it's not.
Can I ask a question?
Have a connotation with.
Is that just coming from Cubans or is that across the board? Because I don't know if I would have known that.
That's a very good question.
That is a good question.
No, that is a good question.
But I'll answer that question. So to the Cuban still looks at Cuban food as what you're getting from Hialeah. You're going to get just a mountain of food, low.
It's going to fall off the sides of the plate.
Yeah, low price, right? Oh, an American doesn't so much, but not an American, right? But if you don't know about Cuban food, that's where it would be the niche where it's kind of like, I don't even, so it's not as popular. So it hasn't become mainstream where everybody knows Mexican food, everybody knows Japanese food.
Right.
So
it just feels like an off the beaten path of Mexican if you're not used to like all the. I know it's not Mexican food, but I'm saying
somehow it hasn't become so mainstream yet. But But with that being said, because you're saying like Cubans versus this is what I know well. We do well. Because everybody's go to Miami. There's no good Cuban food down there. There's a lot, but it's not good.
I think there's good Cuban food
in Miami. No, why?
Because recorded. How are we saying this?
No, I'm saying that's what people tell me. I couldn't.
Okay.
Padrino's has been canceled.
That's almost been canceled like 7 times.
No,
on camera.
Yeah, no. And I'm not saying I say that at zero.
People.
I'm saying people say that to us. Come to Miami because there's nothing good, and I'm going. No, and where we do best, where we excel. Where we excel is in actually touristier areas where there's not a lot of Latins and where there's not a lot of Cubans.
But I guess what I'm saying is not as a Cuban. I'm not Cuban.
Right. Well, and you don't have...
What?
I would walk in and not think twice if you guys were charging the same price as I would go anywhere else.
That's why I hope you are a perfect demographic.
You're like
literally
target.
But so that's why I brought up, are the Cubans the ones that are upset about you guys raising the price more than anybody else? Because I wouldn't know.
But by the way, we don't.
Cuban or call it Latin. Like just people in Miami. I mean, people that are
no.
I mean, it's not necessarily. It's not necessarily Cuban. It's just people that are used to Miami Cuban food. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
So it's not. Yeah. So I'm saying.
Are those your regulars? So you're like trying not to piss off your regulars?
No.
We've got about.
It's a super mix.
It is a mix. I mean, it really depends. Yeah, to Larry's point.
Time out, because Hope has 6 questions. I want to answer mine real quick. The reason why you can't charge as much for your food and your price points compared to like Japanese, like sushi or whatever, is because of the perception in terms of.
And here's the deal.
Product.
I mean, look, the reality of it is if you've got to have a much better quality product if you're going to be charging the same thing. If you can go right next door and get the same meal, then you got to have a better, you got to do something or elevate the product. So we still Cuban food still has not as a whole gotten to the same level as some of these other cuisines.
So I guess that would aid to the concept of, hey, somebody's not paying $220 for sushi here. They're paying, $25 for a plate. So we need more tables to run through. The idea of having a bar and charging for liquor, your margins are better there. Right. So you guys have been innovative in that regard to make
and to that turning tables, you can have the same table turn a bunch of times, or you can just have that same table pay more.
Right.
So
hopefully our family tends to just sit.
You guys are in charge of deciding that.
Well, what I really like to do is just wring every drop out of every experience. I mean, that's why when people say growth in terms of locations, I'm not anti more locations, and we can talk about this all the time. What does growth look like? There's still a lot of untapped potential with our current ones, because not even just the one aspect is the table, right? Okay, those are the people that you see there. That requires the rent that requires, the electric, all the service and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot for that experience. Right. Then you have takeout. It's a little bit less because you don't have to do the service. So that's, you're taking out a couple people.
What percentage you guys at takeout and dine-in right now?
Prior to COVID was 90-10, 90% dine-in.
Really?
Then there was, at this point, there's still, right now maybe we're at 70-30, but there's days where you could be 50-50. I mean, we have.
Wow.
And
4,500 square feet and 50.
Okay.
I know you guys do catering too, which I don't know. That's not takeout, but
where I'm at. So there's dine in, that one that you're talking about, super what you think of a restaurant. Then there's a takeout aspect. You take out even, trim more fat or people or money, whatever you want to. And then you have catering. So catering is taking out even more things, right? Yeah. Less containers because it's only one large one.
I love your guys' catering. It's hard. Some foods can't cater well. They don't. You guys do.
Until my mouth is dry about catering.
If you raise the prices on a meal a little bit, let's say it's $5, $3, whatever.
Well, that's a lot of it.
Does that? Okay.
Where do you
wait?
Let's talk about tipping next.
The needle move.
No, I guess
where do you see the needle move?
Well, I was going to say the 4 and 6% that you were talking about, just raising the plates a little bit. Does that all of a sudden become 5 to 7% or more than that?
It doesn't translate that specifically, but yeah, I mean, yeah, for sure, right? I mean, when you raise the prices and your costs remain the same, then yes, you're going to have a bigger bottom line. Yes, right. Absolutely.
If it was that, but typically time happens, so then the cost of the product goes up. So that's usually how it goes.
Yeah.
But catering is another aspect.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a little hidden gem for you guys that has.
It's not so hidden. That is the thing.
Well, is it your fastest growing sector of your business right now? You think?
It's one of. I mean, the other thing too. It's one of, and it's growing.
You have like a catering team. Yeah.
Yes. You want to
You're
press
looking
the button, hit
right
play?
There. Yeah, let's hear it. Come on.
So
wait, are you about to start fighting?
No.
Okay.
Zero. No, it's just catering is my thing. Yeah.
Oh.
So, and private dining. Yeah. I just want to, so the whole story, cause it's a super interesting story and I don't know how much time we have, but,
yeah, cause we do want to ask a few other questions.
I know. So, well, it kind of incorporates my comeback, right? So I went to school for hospitality. Well, went to school initially for marketing, kind of had the same experience where I was like, Then somebody mentioned hospitality. I was like, that's a thing. I can study that. Yeah. That's super easy. Went to the first class. I was like, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? This is me. This is my life. Not even thinking at that point that I was going to come back to the restaurants, but it was interesting to me and easy. It felt no friction. Right. And then, I had my minor, whatever, is in food and beverage management. One of the bev management classes, there was this guy that came in. And he was the founder of Saint Germain. You're familiar with Saint Germain? Yeah, it's so delicious. So it's a liqueur. Yeah, it's really good. And the guy came in and he presented. The thing that caught me about it was captivating, is that he is the son of some huge alcohol brand, right? And instead of just being, daddy's son, he did it. It was like kind of in the same vein, but it was his own thing. And the product was so impressive. Not just that it tastes good, the branding. I was like impressed about everything. All the collateral he brought was beautiful. And it was like something went in me that I said, he could have done that. But he made it his own. That was still part of it. And that's what I wanted to incorporate. And that's when it planted that catering seed in my head. Didn't manifest quite yet because I finished school. Then I went to, I worked in a hotel for a few years, which was great and super valuable because I learned a ton.
A lot of hospitality experience there.
It was more the customer service. And you know what it was like? It was a ton of email writing and apologizing and just like that kind of, that interaction.
That's terrible.
Sorry about my brothers. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
No, for the conference.
At the thing. And then they created a role for me called VIP Relations Manager, which was basically just being super proactive and anticipating the guest needs. So it planted all this good stuff in me. Yeah. And so that was great. But then when I came, and then I was just working like a maniac over there, to where literally like my director was like, this is a marathon, not a sprint. Like I would get told by the GM, go home. Like I got moved as to salary just because I was getting so much in OT because I wouldn't leave. And then at one point I was working so hard and they switched managers and stuff. And I was like, I don't want to work for that guy. And I was like, if I'm going to work this hard, I'm going to work for myself.
Yeah.
This is a joke. So I kind of presented like this little catering plan, it's, to my dad and to Maito. And I was like, this is kind of what I want to do. And the goal was to have catering be this independent thing where you can recognize Padrino's Catering and not even realize we had locations it was coming from. It was just Padrino's Catering. We were a Cuban catering entity. And I mean, the food comes out of our 5 locations, but you didn't necessarily have to know that. And it grew to the point where that was in 2012. In 2017, we were opening the Fort Lauderdale location. So I needed some support. So I had a catering manager, and that grew pretty decently. And actually, we attribute our success or our non-failure during COVID. During COVID, because we were approached by this government agency in the Department of Elder Affairs to do meals to the elderly.
That kept you afloat. Oh yeah, basically.
It was
because your restaurants were closed for how long during the COVID?
There was a few of them. One was 6 months. One was a few months. But I mean, dining rooms are closed for months.
So there's closed, like legitimately closed.
Doors are locked. Yeah.
There's that 2 of them, and then there was just dining rooms closed. So you're only doing takeout. I mean, that's like you said, there's no tables there.
And then even in South Florida, I feel like we were pretty. We were open before, but it's still like that 100%. Follow-up wave to actually get to full capacity again. And I'm sure you're probably feeling a little bit still.
Right? Oh no, that's another thing I can talk about.
Okay, so
basically we were open here, and anywhere else we would have gone under.
The actual meals that we started doing.
Yeah, we have this number that it's like almost gets a drum roll since 2020, April of 2020. So it's been officially 3 years. Yeah, we just rounded out 3 years of this program of meal deliveries. We have delivered
1,120,000 meals.
Are you serious?
Gosh.
Crazy number.
So,
and I had to check the math.
You're like, no.
I was like, wait a second.
So that's why when you say catering, I'm like, oh, you want to hear about our catering? It's not a little Mickey Mouse operation.
In 3 years?
Yes.
No, 200. 1,200,000. I said it wrong.
Well, the number's going up as we sit.
It actually is, yes. So it's because each person gets a bag that has 14 meals in it, and we figured out how to freeze them. We have a whole fleet of drivers. It's a whole operation. So that's a lot of our growth too. We can talk about forever is adapting, pivoting, just where is that opportunity? And that's what happened. One of our kitchens, we moved things, part of the dining room, because the dining rooms weren't getting. It's so funny because it happened a few years ago. We don't even think about it, but one of the sections of the dining room literally just installed this giant curtain rod, and all behind there is we have freezers back there. Yeah. We have all the boxes because it's tons of a million containers.
1 million.
1 million containers.
312.
Yeah. Well, no, not necessarily. I guess some of them are the breakfast items. So, but yeah,
it's crazy.
It's a ton of meals, and
it's crazy.
It did keep
that number definitely deserves a drum roll.
No, it was awesome.
Okay, so I have
obviously very proud of that.
Yeah, two last questions. You can ask the last one. Even though I'll probably break it. I want to know, because of the season that we're in, watching Succession. How did you guys figure out who was going to do what? So can you guys say your titles, what you do at at Padrino's?
At Mario's?
At Mario's.
It hasn't gone there yet.
Happened. Talk about
Mario's
Succession.
That's how I'm going to change things.
Drum roll.
At Padrino's, yeah. And then how you figured out. I mean, you kind of briefly talked about how you kind of came back first. So maybe that was a shoe-in.
Yeah. Finders keepers.
That's how I did it.
Finders keepers.
Yeah.
Dibs.
But I mean, at any point, were you like, hey, can we switch up the roles or share?
Zero.
Yeah. Okay, so how did you guys figure out as siblings or with your father, all that stuff?
It all happened so organically. The fact is...
wait, say your roles. You're the titles.
Mine is, director of sales and marketing.
Okay.
Yes.
What's Eddie? Yes. He's like, what's Eddie's title?
The director of operations.
Okay.
And then I am the president of the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
are you guys kind of the top tiers though? Or is there like a chief operating guy over?
I'm the president and CEO.
I mean, okay, so, but your siblings.
It's the three of us.
That doesn't go above me.
Yeah.
I mean, your siblings, are they up there too?
I know.
You know what? Or do you have other?
You know what? But if anybody says something like that they need to talk to somebody, I'm like, who are you going to talk to? It stops with me. I do say that. So I cap it at myself. Yeah. If anybody ever gets sly with me.
Technically Mario, then you could go to Mario if you need to.
Yeah, but.
Oh, no.
If whatever, we don't, that's the thing.
You guys trust each other enough that you're like, whatever she says goes.
Explicitly.
No.
So so obviously our dad is less involved now. He's kind of just like,
And happily less involved. But and to his credit, because a lot of people hold on so long, he very much wanted for us to say, let me add value, let me contribute to this. It wasn't so much like your ideas suck, no, be quiet. No.
That happens a lot. That's why there's 90% fail rate at the third generation of businesses, is because, and I always like to interject that because we're literally in this 10%, which I bet you that stat is even changed now because there's just no, multiple generations that want to continue on the same thing. But it's true. The biggest one of, I'd say, is that generation, so it would be my dad, doesn't want to hear it, doesn't want to advance, doesn't want to adapt. All these things we're saying, he is the opposite. He's like, like you guys
go for it,
could do it. And we did have to earn our keep. That's the other thing. This is the thing that has to be clear. This was not something handed to us. We earned it. Yeah. I'm not saying like, so fantastic, but we did earn our way. We proved ourselves.
Right. He didn't want to it wasn't just like, if we were idiots, he'd say, no, that's not going to happen.
No, he's not going to hand over all of the hard work of his parents and his hard work and then just go, here, you guys, so it's yours because you're my kid.
But then to answer your question, how did we kind of fall into the roles? Here's the beautiful thing about this. Yes. Loudy's brain is very different than my brain, and it's very different than my brother's brain. What she does, we cannot do, and she does it very effortlessly. What my brother sees when he walks into a room, I don't see it. He just sees things differently. His brain works operationally. And then what I do, they don't want to do.
Zero. I literally, I cringe at the things that they have to do.
Yeah.
And they don't want to do my stuff.
Do you guys ever get in fights? Like, do you ever kind of pull the, hey, I'm in charge?
People would want it to be more dramatic than it is. I assure you. And I've been approached a couple times about reality shows and stuff like that. And I have said,
you're like, not that entertaining?
No,
wait.
Point blank.
Reality shows? And you're not doing it?
No, because the fact is, I've told them point blank, you're not going to get drama out of me. We have a lot of personality, but I'm not going to fight. You're not going to you're not going to poke at us.
No, we don't.
We really don't. There's a lot of respect there. We have our different, he said, we're all wired super differently, and it happens to all be the exact roles that a restaurant or I'd say a business requires. And the line that I said one time, and I'm going to keep saying it because I think it's really good. We are like a braid where we intertwine, but never tangle.
That's beautiful. It's like tangle. It's not tangled, but yeah.
We intertwine, but never tangle, and we're stronger together.
Ooh, baby. Nice.
Oh, man. Or like you gotta make a short out of that one.
But here, just to kind of give you like a quick, because it could be like, well, how do their roles all match? Like, I think the perfect example is when we just built the new 100%. Restaurant, right? Like you walk in, you see it, Loudy did it. All the guts of what you don't see, my brother did it. And then what did it cost? What's the insurance? What did all the budget, all that? I did it. Yeah. So it everyone matches.
Like this though.
And you like equally carry the weight and the stress or the wins, the loses 100%, together.
100%. Like I don't go like none of it like, oh, Edward did the kitchen. It's like, oh, I wish I could have stuck my head in there. I don't want anything to do with it. Like we don't want each other's roles.
But are you ever like, Edward, this plate isn't set up the way I designed it? That doesn't happen.
No, because it's not, it's like, no.
That's your world.
It is. Yeah. So we know, and the other thing too is we know who to go to for what, like question wise. Yeah. And a lot of times Edward and I overlap, I guess, more, definitely in the building of the restaurants.
Well, you have to work together.
We do.
There's a lot of operations in design. It goes hand in hand. Yeah. Kind of equally. Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff.
How does it function?
Yeah. Yeah, so all that kind of stuff, we crossover stuff, but then we know when to ask him whatever we need to ask.
Yeah.
When it's more employee related or whatever, I guess, we're going to you or.
That's awesome.
It's kind of, and we're just like I said, wired that way. It was so programmed that we just like kind of know where to go.
Yeah.
I feel like, I'm not going to speak on behalf of him, but I feel like your dad must be so proud.
Oh, Matt, look at us. Of course he's proud.
Of two of you.
Yeah,
and my brother as well.
He cannot actually speak about it because he gets so emotional. I know. He literally
That's
every
so
single
cute.
time.
And by the way,
wait till he hears you say you guys were a braid.
Oh yeah, the braid was awesome. By the way,
I thought it was so good though.
No, I think
because
it is
we're
awesome.
3 parts. We don't tangle, but we intertwine because we do have to work together.
Right.
But we are stronger together.
I love
feel.
It. And you guys hang out too.
Yeah. So
like on the weekend.
But what's kind of what's awesome is that you look at again, people can talk about a family business but the beautiful thing is with the family business, you have the power in numbers, right? So when stuff does hit the fan, you've got like after COVID, we've got the power in numbers. The other thing is that you've got something. Okay, we have got children, right? Now that my parents are not as involved, the stress relief of having knowing that my mom's got the kids and she knows that the restaurants are taken care of. It's this beautiful symbiotic circle where it's like everyone's got their part and everyone respects the part that each other has.
Yeah.
But and that's what keeps the harmony, because if you've got people, if I'm gonna start saying, "Oh, what's Lottie doing?" Then no, we're gonna.
I think we've had to completely strip that from our mind. I never had it in the first place. That's
I was gonna say, it sounds like that was a beginning, like core part of who your dad kind of raised and your mom raised you guys to be.
Yeah, it was never really like a thing. Yeah, and the fact is too,
you're not competitive.
Not with each other.
Yeah. Not with each other.
No,
I meant with each other.
Yes, yeah. Let's totally put it that way, because you don't want to play taboo with me.
I'm not competitive.
I'm a little bit scared.
Okay,
it's a thing. It's a thing.
Matt, ask your our famous last question.
Yeah, so I have a couple remarks. One, the other thing that I think is really organic about you guys is you're three powerful individuals that are involved in it, and the way you guys described where you've landed, you didn't force puzzle pieces to land where they were, right? Like, you're where you're supposed to be, and just by chance, well, not by chance, but just the reality of it is you complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. So that's why I'm not surprised where, even though the third generation company is usually the toughest to remain successful, while you guys are successful, right? So that's my one takeaway. Our final question is, and you kind of, this is always difficult because when you guys give your backstories and I see that you guys have ventured out from the restaurant space, it might be a challenging answer. But if it wasn't the restaurant space, I know it's on accounting for you. And you were to take kind of knowing yourself now, where you're at in life, your strengths, your weaknesses, your passions, what other industry or business do you think you could have seen yourself starting, maybe individually or as a family again?
And it can't be in the restaurant business.
Yeah, don't be like, oh,
because this is more like a creative
we would do Italian. Don't do that.
Yeah.
I would have done Chinese.
Better margins.
Yeah.
Better margins. Yeah, pasta, you could sell it for more.
I have an answer.
Go for it.
The thing about my answer is it's just an incredible thing about my life that I'm just so grateful for. So you can take it, because I'll work my way through it.
Well, the truth is, I always, well, it's not that I always thought I would do the restaurants. I always thought I'd do business. I like the idea of business. And frankly, I don't care what the business is. I really like the idea of business. Honestly, when I was younger, I thought dressing in a suit to work would be pretty cool. So that's the only thing I thought maybe that'd be.
No, but it actually sucks.
Some kind of financial,
it really sucks, to tell you the truth, especially in South Florida.
Hey, let me tell you, I like that the family had restaurants, so that part of the decision was made easier, because it was just, I'm fascinated by business. I look at, like an income statement, and it's sexy to me. So I know it's just my brain.
I was going to say.
It lights up, right? Like I like it because it kind of talks to me what it is. And then again, look,
That wired
the
differently.
way that you just sexualize a number sheet. Yeah, I was like, I can't. I don't see that at all. Yeah.
Some of them are not sexy. By the way.
Some of them are hideous.
To what he said, also, we say this a lot as a company. I say this all the time. The business is the restaurant happened to be the business. It could have been anything, and we truly use it as a vehicle for more. Right. So it's so important to us to create impact. Why do I get so stinky? I'm going through a lot.
Wait, so do you do?
So it's important for us to just be impactful. It happened to be restaurants, but it could have been any business that this is just the vehicles, the restaurant. What else would I be doing? So started off marketing, that lasted like for 2 seconds, but I'm now the director of marketing and sales, right? Also, there was like a point there that I was like, should I get an event certificate in hospitality? There's like that. I do events all the time, either with a restaurant, with catering, all that kind of stuff. When I was younger, loved trading spaces on TLC, design. Now I'm designing the restaurants. Everything, when I was really young, you want to go all the way back, I want to be a teacher. And now I'm like training people.
You like 7 professions in one.
So I do all the things.
That's the
all the things
hat,
I wanted to do, it's literally manifested in this. So I don't even know which one, because I don't. That
feels ordained.
The crazy thing is, there's not one that I really want to do. I am doing some like design stuff separate. I don't want to do just that.
Yeah.
I want to do all the things. And then also with the flexibility of like no one's kind of on top of me, and I can still be a mom and a wife. Like that is what I like. So if I could do anything else, I'm doing all the other things that I would want to do.
I think that's like true success, though, is that you're like loving what you're doing. And
if you get like a quick answer right away and you're like, oh, actually, I would do this tomorrow. Do you have an opportunity for me? I'll go work in construction. I'd be like, well, maybe you're not doing the right thing because it's too quick, easy of a sell.
Literally,
so,
right?
Yeah.
No, and zero. Yeah, I don't want to do anything else.
No, it's because actually, while you're talking, I'm just thinking, because again, the idea and what you just said about the idea of being, the owner, entrepreneur, it's not, my life is not, making food, serving the food. My life is all of the business side of it. Right. And so that's what I liked growing up. I thought that was cool. So that's what I've been able to do. So
that's awesome. Well, any final thoughts?
No, we have so many like all these front end. Hope and I will do these intros, and she asks me about controversial things sometimes. But something I thought about your restaurant, and I'll end on this, and I appreciate so much about you guys, is one of my biggest pet peeves is like proactive restaurants and reactive restaurants. And every time I've gone to Padrino's, the service is so proactive, where your cups get filled, you're asking,
love to hear
and
it.
it's like. The experience on top of the awesome food, it was just like, it's one of my I appreciate it so much. So whatever you guys are doing, it's working.
Oh, thank you. I thought you were going to hit us with a controversial question. I was like,
I did too. I was like, oh, where are we going with
when we do the pre-interview here, and we get the family together to talk about you guys. We'll get Eddie on and we'll get all
I did wish that we had another mic. That would have been fun.
Well, you said 2. And
we only have 2. 4. Anyways. Well, thank you guys for joining. It was super fun, and we'll see you guys soon. Maybe at the restaurant.
Yes.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.